Reading this book by Uriah Smith, Daniel and Revelation, 1897. We are now reading Daniel chapter 12, verse 2, the second part of our reading. Our Father in heaven, thank you so much for the gift of life. Thank you so much for this temporal freedom that we can share your word. Only in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Uriah Smith comments, Daniel 12, verse 2. It may be objected that this text does not affirm the awakening of any but the righteous, according to the translation of Bush and Whiting, namely, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, these to everlasting life, and these to shame and everlasting contempt. It will be noticed, first of all, that this translation, which is not by any means above criticism, proves nothing till the evident ellipsis is supplied. The ellipsis some therefore undertake to supply as follows: and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, these, the awakened ones, to everlasting life, and those, the unawakened ones, to shame and everlasting contempt. It will be noticed again that this does not supply the ellipsis, but only adds a comment, which is a very different thing. To supply the ellipsis is simply to insert those words which are necessary to complete the sentence. Many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake is a complete sentence. The subject and predicate are both expressed. The next member, some or these to everlasting life, is not complete. What is wanted to complete it? Not a comment, giving someone's opinion as to who are intended by these, but the verb of which these shall be the subject. What verb shall it be? This must be determined by the preceding portion of the sentence, which is complete, where the verb shall awake is used. This then is the predicate to be supplied. Some or these shall awake to everlasting life, applying the same rule to the next member. Some or those to shame and everlasting contempt, which is not in itself a complete sentence. We find ourselves obliged to supply the same words and read it: some or those shall awake to shame and everlasting contempt. Anything less than this will not complete the sense, and anything different will pervert the text. For a predicate to be supplied cannot go beyond one already expressed. The affirmation made in the text pertains only to the many who awake. Nothing is affirmed of the rest who do not then awake. And to say that the expression, the shame and everlasting contempt, applies to them when nothing is affirmed of them is not only to outrage the scene of the passage, but the laws of language as well. And of the many who awake, some come forth to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt, which further proves a resurrection to consciousness for these also. For while contempt may be felt and manifested by others towards those who are guilty, shame can be felt and manifest only by the guilty parties themselves. This resurrection, therefore, is already shown, comprises some of both righteous and wicked, and cannot be the general resurrection of the last day. Is there then any place for a special or limited resurrection or elsewhere, or any intimation of such an event before the Lord appears? The resurrection here predicted takes place when God's people are delivered from the great time of trouble with which the history of the world terminates. And it seems from Revelation 22:11 that this deliverance is given before the Lord appears. The awful moment arrives when he that is filthy and unjust is pronounced unjust still, and he that is righteous and holy is pronounced holy still. Then the cases of all are forever decided, and when this sentence is pronounced upon the righteous, it must be delivered. It must be deliverance to them, for then they are placed beyond all reach of danger or fear of evil. But the Lord has not at that time made this appearance, for he immediately adds, and behold, I come quickly. The utterance of the solemn fiat, which seals the righteous to everlasting life and the wicked to eternal death, is supposed to be synchronous with a great voice which is heard from the throne in the temple of heaven, saying, "It is done," Revelation 16:17. And this is evidently the voice of God, so often alluded to in the descriptions of the scenes connected with the last day. Joel speaks of it and says, chapter 3:16, "The Lord shall roar out of the Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. but the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. The margin reads, instead of hope, place of repair or harbor. Then at this time, when God's voice is heard from heaven, just previous to the coming of the Son of Man, God is a harbor for his people, or which is the same thing, provides them deliverance. Here then, at the voice of God, when the decisions of eternity are pronounced upon the race, and the last stupendous scene is just to open upon a doomed world, God gives to the astonishing nations another evidence and pledge of his power, and raises from the dead a multitude who had long slept in the dust of the earth. May God our Father do bless you, and his Son be gracious to you